Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today I'm going to give some advice to men who are trying to find a good Catholic trad wife. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, sicut erat in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. If you're new to this channel, the reason I do the Glory Be is because I feel like the typical Catholic, typical Christian in general, does too many prayers of petition and not enough prayers of praise and thanksgiving. And the Glory Be is one of the easiest prayers of praise out there. Okay, so I do have a playlist here called Catholic Dating and Family, and there's many episodes there. I talk about how Romanticism has destroyed Catholic matrimony. I have an episode on how the men going their own way movement has affected Catholic matrimony. There's a lot of episodes over there, so I'll make sure I put a banner up here for it. I want to give advice to the Catholic men out there. Now, this episode can be divisive. I think some women will be offended by it. I think some men will be offended by it. But look, I think men in general like to hear the straight truth because it motivates them. So I'm not going to mince words. I think if you talk to men in their 20s who are looking for a good Catholic wife, most of them are not looking for whores. Okay, they're not like, you know what, I want to marry a stripper whore who has an OnlyFans account. So most Catholic men, and I know quite a few men in their 20s who are single, they're looking for a good Catholic man, a good Catholic woman. They want to find a traditional Catholic woman, someone who is into gender norms, someone who, of course, cares about her faith, prays quite a bit, is wanting to have a family, no contraception, follow the church's teaching and everything. They will bemoan that the typical woman in their 20s is, as the manosphere will call it, riding the carousel of you know what. In other words, it's the Tinder world. They're nominally Christian, but they're out dating. And see, when I was dating in my early 20s, this was in the late 90s. You had to, and going back, you had to like get to know the girl. You had to date her maybe for 6 months or a year as a whole before they would have sex. And there was a good thing behind this because then you get to see if there was any red flags. You would see if there was maybe lack of compatibility and values and whatnot before you had sex, because we all know sex makes you stupid. Let's be real, right? All the hormones. But in the Tinder world that we live in today, people are hooking up on the first or second date. And when you do that, then you're blind to everything. So your friends could be like, you know, this guy's abusive, or this girl is very mean and aggressive. Oh, you don't know her, you don't know him, right? Because it's the sex talking. So men will bemoan that a lot of women are just having a lot of sex, and they don't want that type of woman. And even good women who want to be virgins, they see the guys out there who they want to marry, the kind of high sexual market value men, and they realize, well, look what I'm competing with. Every woman is putting out early, and it seems like the only thing I can offer is the sex. So even good Catholic women are feeling pressured to put out, even if they don't want to put out, because they feel like the only way I can ensnare, entice, beguile a man is with sex. But the problem is sex is a double-edged sword for women, because yes, sex will entice a man in, but the more sexual partners a woman have, it's not good for her mental health. It's just not. Either way, men will bemoan this. Women, of course, will bemoan how men today are just not masculine. You see men, we'll talk about this, which is the central thesis of this episode, but they say like a lot of men won't even approach them. They won't even talk to them. A lot of them are socially awkward. A lot of them lack ambition and all these things. And I think these are all valid points. I really do think these are valid points. I think good trad cath men and good trad cath women both have valid points. I really do. But this video is not for the women. If I had to give advice to the women, I would say adhere to traditional gender norms, read scripture, read what Colossians says, read what 1 Corinthians says, read what Ephesians says. We have episodes on all these. Read 1 Peter, the advice that Peter gives to women. But this is for men. I think the biggest problem is, you look at the last 30 years, it's the wussification of the man. It's this cultural Marxist ploy that women have become more masculine, and you can see it played out with the tattoos. You see women at the gym with muscles. You see that most of the transgender stuff has been women wanting to become a boy. And so you see that the women are becoming more masculine because there's a vacuum of masculinity. It's like, I don't think they really want to be masculine, but there's a vacuum of masculinity. And then the other side, the cultural Marxists, through role models in television, like Homer Simpson and tons more, have made the men weak, fat, and soft. And so you see all these temptations or vices that are out there that have just enervated or sucked dry the visceral masculinity of men. And you look at porn, You look at Uber Eats. In other words, you could just boop, 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 just order food. You look at pot. You look at excessive screen watching. You look at a lot of guys just don't know how to build and farm and just do handy stuff. But really, I would tell you, it's the porn and it's the pot. And so a lot of guys have just been sucked into this maelstrom. And once you get sucked into porn, and lucky, I'm at that age where if I wanted porn, I had to go to the XXX theaters or to the movie places. So luckily, I didn't have the ability to go there. But I feel for kids. I feel for kids in their 20s and their teens because it's 2 clicks away. In the state that I live in, God bless Texas, the state government just banned Pornhub from operating here at all. So if you live in Texas, you can't access Pornhub. God bless it. I'm not a libertarian. I'm a paleo-conservative because I'm not a libertarian because they think, oh, everything should be legal, prostitution should be legal. No, there's something to be said about prohibiting things for the moral good. Right? This is why I think with abortion, one of the many reasons why abortion should be illegal, because yes, women might still get back, they would get back alley abortions, but there's something about society saying this is wrong, this is evil, that makes a statement about how good a society is. Either way, men have been sucked into porn, and it's so divisive, and it's so destructive to the psyche of the man. You get sucked in, you watch worse porn, it occupies your life, and a lot of guys, oh, this affects me. But it sucks away your sexual energy, it sucks away your masculine energy, then you throw in pot. I'm not saying every Catholic guy is doing pot, but we know that there's been an increase in the rise of it because of the recreational use of pot in all these states, and I would tell you that these were all passed, again, as a way to undermine America, similar to what the British did to China in the 19th century when they flooded Indian opium into the Chinese market to weaken the Chinese. One of the reasons is because they wanted to get tea, but to weaken them. It's the same thing here. And so there's an attack on the man, an attack on the woman. So you see a lot of these guys that grow up with weak role models from television. They have maybe weak role models for their fathers. Their fathers were doormats. The mothers were henpeckers and aggressive and just browbeating the dad. And they saw that. The dad was very weak. And one of those dads who loses his identity when he gets married. He has no friends anymore. He just wants to spend time with his wife, or his wife henpecks him to have no more friends anymore. And so you see that. Then you got porn. You got pot. You got all these things. So a lot of guys in their 20s are just stunted. Then you see this reinforced by a lot of movies. All the Seth Rogen movies glorify this. Like it's cool to be underemployed or a gamer who plays 6 hours a day at age 30, smoking pot. So you see this, they get this feedback, oh, it's good to be like this. No, it's not. It's not. You got to get off the porn. You got to get off the porn. Go to as much therapy as you need to. You got to get off the porn. You got to get off the pot. You got to get off this stuff. If you want to get married and marry a good Catholic girl, look, newsflash, there are good Catholic women out there, like chaste women, maybe a woman who's still a virgin. I mean, at the last stat I saw, I think it's only 5% of women when they get married are virgins. But, whatever. Let's say a woman with a low body count at least. But what do you have to offer them if you're porn-addled, pot-addled, and lack ambition and you're playing video games? And I mean this, and I say this with charity. I'm not trying to insult you, but I'm just trying to give you the straight truth. If you're still a stunted boy, what do you offer when women want to be led by a man, like our grandparents, great-grandparents? Back then, the guy was getting a job at 19 at the factory starting a family. Now at 19, you still got 15 more years of living in your dad's and your mom's basement. So we need to work on our masculinity. We need to work on actually interacting with women, because so many men or any high school boys hooked on porn. They're like, I don't need to talk to women because I'm getting all my sexual interaction with the screen, with the pixels. I don't need to go talk to women. So you see good Catholic women are like, this guys won't come up to me. But you know who's going to come up to those girls? The Chads. The Chads have no problems going up to these girls, seducing them and corrupting them, because the good Catholic guys, a lot of them, are saddled. And that's exactly what the cultural Marxists, the Gramsci communists want. A weakened, fat, lazy, lack of ambition, lack of direction male population. Because there's no one to lead. There's no one to lead. So men, please break free of these shackles. Don't see it. Like Paul talks about in Romans 6, 7, 8, his great discourse on sin. Lots of times we see these things as freedom, right? Oh, I have the freedom to do all these things. No, you're just shackled and enslaved to a vice. Break free of these things. And I would tell you also too, look, you could be the most well-intentioned, good Christian guy, but if you lack ambition, good women are going to pick the guys who are starting a business, who are working on creating something. You know, let's be real, both sexes are shallow on one level. Men are wired to look at beauty first. So a guy who has options, let's be honest, we know this, isn't going to pick the 400-pound woman. But a woman with options isn't going to pick the well-intentioned, good Catholic janitor. Let's be honest. She's going to be attracted to a man who either has money or can demonstrate he has money. Yes, she wants him to have Christian virtue. Yes. But if two things are equal, if there's a man with Christian virtue who's a janitor and a man with Christian virtue who is an owner of, I don't know, whatever, or an attorney, doctor, or whatever it is, she's probably going to pick that guy, right? Because women are wired for provisioning, security, stuff like that. You see this going back to our Paleolithic wiring. So men, instead of just bemoaning and masturbating and watching porn and all these things and just waiting and looking at the front door and hoping that the supermodel is going to knock on the door and say, I want to marry you, you have to work to get what you want. And part of that is getting rid of all these vices. Guys, post in the comments. Girls, post in the comments. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.